This is Young Professionals with Tanach.
Woo!
Yeah.
Tanach.
My name is Ariel Baradarian. I am a homeopathic student practitioner. And today we're going to talk, the topic today is holistic Judaism. Balance is a priority. And today, before I start, I want to thank David Storfer, Rabbi Golden, for allowing me to come and speak tonight. It's big zechut, big honor. I'd like to thank the other three people around me for really sacrificing their time and effort to come here. Good job, guys.
30 people.
30, well, times 10. And yeah, let's get underway. Nice. So today's topic is holistic Judaism, balanced health is the priority. And we're basically going to talk about, the goal today is to talk about the Torah's unique healing approach, which is very holistic in nature, which we'll talk about for a second what exactly that means. And we're going to see how Torah's healing approach plays out throughout the Tanach, throughout the Torah, the Talmud, Kabbalah. We'll take a look at the Rambam, some Chassidus, take a little jab at everything here and there. And so this demonstration will bring about new insights and perspective on true and complete healing for the body, mind, and soul. So for everyone that's live here, if you guys have any questions and stuff, leave it towards then, because there's going to be a 90% chance your questions will be answered anyways. And so let's get started. So it's actually very funny we're having this class, this shiur, or whatever it's called now, because we're in the month of ER. So what does that have to do with anything? The month of ER, according to the Kabbalistic books, is known as the month of healing. If you look at the first letters of the word ER is Ayin, Yud, Reish, which stands for Ani Hashem Rofecha. Aleph is Ani, the two Yuds are another way of spelling Hashem's name, and Reish stands for Rofecha. I am Hashem, your healer. So we see that this month is an auspicious time for healing, and the books bring down how the way Hashem heals sicknesses and illnesses and things like that is through a more permanent way that addresses the person as a whole entity. Whereas human healing more focuses on the individual aspects of a person, and because of the method that it uses, it usually leaves side effects and unpleasant effects after that. So the whole goal today is to go more into Hashem's vision and version of healing and how that applies to us. So before I begin speaking about the actual content topic, I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself. So I grew up in Alpine, New Jersey. I grew up going to the local public school in Alpine. After Alpine, I attended Frisch. Frisch is a local modern Orthodox yeshiva day school. It's a fun place, awesome. Then I went to studied in yeshiva in Israel, Netiv Aryeh, literally right next to the Kotel. Awesome place, highly recommend it. Was there for a year and a half. Then I went to college, Lander College for Men, which was half a day college classes, other half a day yeshiva learning, lots of Talmud and Gemara learning, fun stuff. And so many of you are probably wondering, how does this from Orthodox kid get into homeopathic medicine? You know, we hear a lot of people in the frum community, they usually go on to be normal, regular doctors, not, people like me. So the way that happened, to make a long story short, is I got introduced through homeopathic medicine through a relative of mine, through a cousin of mine. I kind of was going through a time in my life I wasn't sure. I was in college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I always had a niche for medicine. But I never found the right modality that really fit me as a person. So in a nutshell, he introduced homeopathy to me. I kind of did my research. I looked at clinical research. I spoke to doctors, spoke to people that knew about homeopathy, professionals, family, friends. Googled, did whatever I could. And after a very long time, I eventually realized this is exactly the type of medicine I've been looking for, and I want to pursue this. So the week I decided I was going to do this, I signed up for an online program. It's called the Resident School of Homeopathy. It's based in Nevada. Awesome school. I studied homeopathy part-time while in college for 2.5 years. So during my last year and a half, 2 years of college. And then I switched to a regular on-site school in Brooklyn, in Dumbo, Brooklyn, which is called the Academy of Homeopathy Education, which is a worldwide school. They have classes in a building and also online. It's the first full-time homeopathic program in America. Most programs that have been around for the past 30, 40 years have been part-time. As in Baruch Hashem, it's been good times, and I am graduating. I've been also practicing clinical supervision under a professional homeopath for the past little over a year, taking in clients, healing people, doing the good work. And B'ezrat Hashem, this upcoming June 11th, I will be graduating and starting my full-time homeopathic career, B'ezrat Hashem. So that's my background. That's how I got into homeopathy. And now let's get into the fun stuff. So before we go into the actual Torah sources about healing and holistic medicine and all those things, we see that Baruch Hashem today there's a big growing interest and demand for natural holistic health. If you look at America and the world in general, 30, 40, 50 years ago, there's not so many people practicing this. You had in America in the 1800s practicing it. To make a long story short, eventually the interest in it stopped for political reasons, and in the 60s and 70s there was a big resurgence ever since then there's been a big resurgence in natural health, holistic healing, all these things. Homeopathy, especially Chinese medicine, which we'll get into. And the reason why this is because people are now looking for more permanent, safe, inexpensive, effective solutions that don't just band-aid or suppress issues and don't cause side effects and don't have to cause you to take a million other medications for the new sickness you have because you took this other drug or whatever before. People want to feel complete mentally, emotionally, physically, even spiritually, which is really the truth. So that's why people look into alternative health, alternative medicine, and there's a bunch of them out there. You have Reiki, homeopathy, acupuncture, acupressure, meditation. There's a million things people will run and spend their money for. But here's the issue: not all of them are holistic. When I say holistic, by the way, it's green and it's made out of herbs. That's not what holistic means. Holistic means that when you try to heal someone holistically, you're taking in all their aspects, their mental aspects, physical aspects, emotional aspects, even spiritual if you want to go down that route, their lifestyle, everything and anything about the person. And based off all that information, you try to find the best method and solution to help that person reach optimum and complete health, to become healthy again. So that's the issue with many alternative medicines. There are a lot of them that like herbal medicine that aren't holistic and that don't really hit, even though they're great medicines, they don't hit the core of what people are looking for in terms of healing. And even the ones that are holistic, a lot of them, like Reiki, for example, for Jewish people like us that follow the Torah, it's a lot of times very problematic because a lot of times they use Buddhist practice, Eastern practices, they're based off of Avodah Zarah, idolatry, so it becomes a problem. So for Orthodox Jews like us, there aren't so many good holistic solutions out there. But there are two main ones. There are two main ones that, in my opinion at least, they're the most, I don't want to say kosher, it's more Torah-based. They're energetic, they're kosher to use, and they're safe and effective, and they work. Both from an anecdotal perspective and even a clinical perspective. So the first one I want to talk about is Chinese medicine, but more specifically acupuncture. So what's acupuncture? I'll just talk about it very quickly because it's not my forte. So acupuncture is a 4,000-year-old medicine, form of Chinese medicine, and the whole philosophy behind acupuncture is that there are different meridian points on our body. There's meridian points throughout our head, throughout our stomach, arms, liver, legs, things like that. And the reason why people have illnesses, they have symptoms, they don't feel good, is because these energy levels in the person through the meridians are off. They're not channeled the right way. So in short, what acupuncture does, they use specific needles. They press it on those points. And by doing that, they rechannel this energy in the right direction, and that results in, over time, healing for a person on all different levels, mentally, emotionally, physically. And each point represents a different issue or complaint or symptom that needs to be addressed. It's actually very interesting. Acupuncture has a lot of Jewish roots in it as well, believe it or not. Where do we see this? If you look in Breshit, if you look in, I believe it's Parsha Vayera, it's Breshit chapter 25, Pasuk 6. It says, "And to the children of Avram's concubines, Avram gave presents to and sent them from the vicinity of Yitzchak, his son, while he was still alive, eastward to the country of the east." So what do we see here? What does this have to do with what we're talking about? We see that Avram had children through Bnei Keturah, through Keturah, his second wife. This is after Sarah Imenu died. And it says Avram gave his children gifts, and he sent them away to the east. So it's very interesting. If you look in the Zohar, which is the main book of Kabbalah, real Kabbalah, it talks about how what Avram gave to the Bnei Keturah was all these powers and impurity. Meaning the same way that we have Kabbalah and people are able to change nature and use Kabbalah to change the reality of the world to a certain extent. So too, Avram gave over these powers to his children through Bnei Keturah, children of Keturah, and they're able to have these same powers that came from a different source, not from the same holy source, Kedusha source, godly source that we use. So it's very interesting. We see, and they went eastward. So we know through the Zohar that these people eventually became the people of India, China, Japan, the people of the Orient. Not all of them, a vast majority of them. So we see already that they have a similar tradition as we do, and a lot of it plays out in healing. Like, for example, for the guys that wear tefillin, there are certain points where we wrap the tefillin. We wrap it on our arm over. We put the box over here, right on the second half of our bicep, and we wrap it 7 times around our arm. And depending on your custom, whether you're Sephardic, Ashkenazi, Chabad, Yemenite, whatever, we wrap it a certain way on our hands. So if you look at Chinese medicine, they talk about how a lot of the meridian points and main energy points are on these parts of the arm. It's exactly where we wrap the straps on our tefillin. So we see, like, when we put on tefillin every day, we're really hitting those points all the time. That's why the rabbis in the Gemara said you have to wrap it on those places. It's not just, for no reason, OCD, chas v'shalom. There's a reality. You're changing your body. You're making, you're spiritually changing yourself just by doing that. You're activating points in your body doing that. And it's amazing. No matter what custom you follow, it hits all those points. Now, for the head tefillin, for example, there's another idea. In Chinese medicine, talking about the concept, in Buddhism too, they talk about the concept of a third eye. Which is another main meridian point that influences your brain, your thinking, things like that. And there's also on the back of the head, there's a soft spot towards the bottom, like right above the neck, and that's also the major energy point too that acupuncturists use a lot. So if you look at the way people put tefillin, we put the head tefillin, the shal rosh, right above the third eye. That's why you don't put it in between eyes. You put it above the third eye to activate that point. And also the knot goes on the very back of the neck by the soft spot in the back to also activate that point. So we see, like, there's a lot of layovers between Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and Judaism. It's very similar. At the end of the day, it's coming back to the same source, from Avraham Avinu, which is really cool. So that's Chinese medicine. But today I don't want to talk about acupuncture, Chinese medicine, because I'm not an acupuncturist. I don't practice Chinese medicine. Today what I wanted to focus on is homeopathy. So many people here asked me before they came in, what's homeopathy? What is it? How does it work? Is it really true? It's garbage, maybe, all that stuff. Which are totally valid questions. So homeopathy in a nutshell, it's like acupuncture. It's an energy-based holistic medicine that aims to heal people as a whole on all different levels, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But unlike acupuncture that uses needles, homeopathy uses remedies. These remedies are energetic. They're made from various substances. They're made from various different substances: plants, herbs, even man-made products, animals, everything and anything. And minerals too. And homeopathy makes remedies in a certain way where we're only using the energetic aspects and properties of it to heal people. And so how does it work? Before I get to that. Also, there's a belief in homeopathy, very similar to Chinese medicine, of how we all have an energy in ourselves. Homeopathy calls it a vital force. But you can call it, there's different names for it. People call it neshama, people call it a chi, people call it an energy force. It's all the same idea. This vital force is an energy that's running and keeping your body functioning and continuing. Now, when this energy force is deranged, when it's not balanced, this results in illness. So if a person's vital force isn't complete, it's not balanced correctly, it's going to result in fevers and colds and eczema and depression and anxiety. And depending on how it imbalances, it can manifest in many different ways. And it's very interesting. If you look at a lot of clinical research done not even by homeopaths, by medical doctors, there are actually studies being done that show how even though the remedies, even though they have the remedies, they give off a very strong energetic effect through electromagnetic waves and the like. So there's 4 principles behind homeopathy. The first one is totality. What's totality? What do I mean by that? Totality means that in homeopathy, when we give a remedy, we're not just giving it for one symptom. I don't give a remedy just for eczema or just for nosebleeds or whatever. I'm giving a remedy for the entire person, for all the person's issues. So let's say Ben is coming to me for homeopathic treatment, and he says, I have a problem. I have eye irritation. So I'm not just going to focus on his eye irritation, which is also important. It's also part of the whole part of the whole issue and pattern with Ben overall. I'm going to look at his mentals, emotionals, past history, lifestyle, sleep, diet, all these different factors about Ben. We're going to go through A to Z with everything about Ben, and this applies to every other person as well. There's also the law of similars. So what's the law of similars? The law of similars, in a nutshell, basically means like cures like. Which basically means you're fighting fire with fire. So what we do is a lot of times when we treat people, a lot of times based on their pattern or what's really causing their illness or offsetting it, we give a remedy that's very similar to their disease. So I'll give you an example. Let's say somebody has allergies, seasonal allergies. Now, normally when the person has allergies, their eyes get red, they're coughing, they're sneezing, they're doing all these things. If I were to give you an onion, if I were to put an onion right next to you, it would make your allergies much worse. Your eyes keep getting red, you keep sneezing, all those things. Right? It doesn't make sense to give an onion to someone. You want to give them something else. But in homeopathy, what we do is we give a homeopathic version of onion. Meaning, as I said before, is the whole process how to make a remedy, which we'll talk about more towards the end, or towards the end. And when we potenize this, what we do is basically we'll take the substance, the onion, and we'll go through the whole process of potonization and succussion, where it's taking the original substance, it's diluting it, it's going through a whole process where the energy of the original substance gets put in a homeopathic remedy. And so we're giving basically the energy of that disease to the person to treat that same disease. So in this case, if we're giving the energy of onion to treat this person's seasonal allergies, which is very similar to what would happen if you were to put an onion near you if you had allergies. So that's, in a nutshell, it's the law of similars. It's basically fighting fire with fire. Then there's minimum dose. Minimum dose means that in homeopathy, because we're dealing with energy medicine, we want to give a remedy as least as possible. Meaning, instead of giving it every day, all the time, unless it's really necessary, we usually try to give it once, twice, 3 times max. And again, this all depends on the person's vitality, their lifestyle, what's going on, a million factors. But in general, because this is energy medicine, we don't want to give too much energy to a person, because too much energy can throw a person off. And so we try to give as the least amount of doses as possible. And the last principle is potency. Potency basically is the whole process how you energize original substance to become a remedy, and that's how you basically use the energy of the original substance to heal people. In a nutshell, that's potency. So with homeopathy, there's a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people think it's herbal medicine, Chinese medicine, it's like voodoo, it's like magic, whatever. All these things. Homeopathy is Homeopathy is a totally different field. It's not Chinese medicine. It's not herbal medicine. Why? Because herbal medicine, Chinese medicine, most medicines, they only aim for one problem of a person, one symptom of a person. Homeopathy looks at the person as a whole and says, okay, what can we give to the person for all the stuff? I'll give you an example how to best explain this. We have, some people in this room are dating now, or might not be dating or will be dating. Yeah, exactly. David's got a hot date, Baruch Hashem. So what happens?
Hey.
It's on the video now.
It's on video. So, sorry about that. So,
Don't know her name.
So-
it's okay.
so when
Do not watch.
So when it comes to dating, especially when it comes to Jewish dating, what happens? There's a matchmaker, and this matchmaker tries to find a guy and a girl that best go together. So based off religious level, personality, common goals, where they want to go in life, attractiveness, there's a bunch of factors involved, and the matchmaker has to fit the right guy, so it's similar to the right girl. She's not going to match someone that's the complete opposite of the person necessarily. It's going to be two people that they're similar to a certain extent and they can go together. And that makes a good shidduch, a good match. So the same thing with homeopathy. In homeopathy, we want to match the right remedy to a person. Because, for example, you can have 10 people with depression, but because homeopathy is very individualized to the person, each person will that has depression, for example, will have their own remedy. So that's why you have to really, when a person comes in for homeopathic treatment, we don't automatically just give them a depression remedy. We give them a remedy that treats depression, but also matches the person's disposition, all these other factors as well. Like a shidduch, basically. We're trying to, in homeopathy, we do shidduchim also. So that's the goal. In a nutshell, that's the goal. So how did homeopathy start? In a nutshell, it started in the late 1700s. It actually was started by a medical doctor named Samuel Hahnemann. He was somebody he didn't like the conventional practices of his time. Besides the fact that that today it's really outdated, like nobody does bloodletting today. But anyways, to make a long story short, through old medical textbooks, he discovered the law of similars, and he said, this doesn't make sense. How can I treat something with the same exact substance as the thing that gives the disease? So what he did through a bunch of experiments, basically, and clinical observations, he discovered how the law of similars makes sense, how using the energy of the original disease to treat someone actually works, amazingly. And to make a long story short, he was the founder of homeopathy. And since then, for the past 110 years, homeopathy has grown, it's been alive, it's been going. And it started in his home country of Germany, and eventually it spread to the rest of Europe. In the late 1800s, it came to America, and today it's all over the world. You have homeopathy in India, Brazil, where it's insured, Mexico also, Sweden just became approved by the government. A lot of people, and it's being promoted and used by a lot of doctors in Europe, even in America, especially in the United States. Homeopathy is becoming a very big and up-and-coming modality. It's actually, statistically speaking, homeopathy is the second most used medicine in the world. I think it's only behind either conventional medicine or Chinese medicine, I don't remember, but it's the second most used medicine in the world. There's over 500 million people plus, and it's growing, that are using this medicine. Wow. So to throw some more stats, the homeopathic industry just in America, where it's not as big as everywhere else in the world, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it goes up literally, not making up this number, thousands of percent each decade. Like in the 1970s, the industry was in like the lower 1 to 10 million. Today it became like hundreds and hundreds of multi-$100 billion-dollar industry. So we see that, and it's projected this demand to be higher and higher and higher. So that's that. And now let's go into. So I just spoke to you about homeopathy, a little bit about Chinese medicine, holistic medicine in general. Now let's go into what the Torah has to say about this. What's the Torah's approach? So throughout the Tanach, throughout the Chumash, the Torah, there's a lot of examples of this, especially of homeopathy. But I'll just share with you 2-3 examples. So the first one is a story in Marah. What happened in Marah? So in this story, this is right after the Jews, after the whole story of the Yam Suf, splitting of the Red Sea. The Jews go to a place called Marah, and in Marah there was no water. No, sorry, there was water, but the water is very bitter. The people couldn't drink it. And the Torah talks about the people into Moshe, and they say, Moshe, we can't drink this water, it's bitter, please do something. So, what happens? So Hashem tells Moshe, here, I'll read you the verse, I have it right here. I'll say it in English. The people complained against Moses, saying, what shall we drink? So he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord instructed him concerning a piece of wood, which he cast into the water, and the water became sweet. This is Shemot, chapter 15, pasuk 24 to 25. So what do we see here? We see the water is bitter. What does Hashem tell him the solution is? Use this bitter branch. You're going to put this bitter branch in the bitter water, and by doing that, it's going to make the water sweet. Hashem, bitter and bitter doesn't go together. You have to use put sweeteners in the water to make it sweet. What is this bitterness? Why are you putting bitter branch? But we see that at the end of the day, we see though. Excuse me. We see that when Moshe put the bitter branch in the water, it made it sweet. So we see here a perfect example of homeopathy. Davik, I had a glass of water. Sorry.
Sure.
So we see how. Yeah, it's fine. We see how. We see this is homeopathy. How? Because we see that Moshe. Thank you.
Easy there, Hillary.
Sorry about that. So we see how does Moshe do this healing? He's using a bitter branch to heal to take away the bitterness in the water. So we see law of similars. We see something bitter is making something else bitter sweet. Then what's next? We see next principle is minimum dose. Moshe only put the branch in once. He didn't put it in 1,000 times like a prescription drug you take every day. He put it in one time, boom, became sweet. Also, the branch was polonized because Hashem put his energy in it in order to make that effect happen, to make the water sweet. And yeah, so we see a perfect example of homeopathy in the Torah, just in that short episode. Let's go to the next example. Next one is leprosy. I should say tsarat, because tsarat is a certain type of skin disease mentioned in the Torah. It's mentioned in the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, 14:12. So the Torah goes through all these different methods in how to get rid of one's tsarat. So one of the methods given is Hashem tells Moshe, if a person can't afford the two korbanot, he can use birds, doves. And by giving doves as a sacrifice, that's going to get rid of his tsarat. So what do birds or doves have to do with tsarat? So if you look in Chazal, and Chazal say that in the Midrash they say that why birds? Because birds, they tend to chirp a lot. Why do people get tsarat? People get tsarat because they speak lashon hara. That's the main reason why people get tsarat. They speak lashon hara, they rip on other people, they speak negatively about other people. So that's why Hashem sends tsarat to a person to help him do teshuvah for that. So why birds? Why do we give birds as a korban to fix it? Because nature of birds is they chirp. They talk a lot. Birds, they talk at each other, they chirp. They're constantly chirping. So as a measure for measure thing, we make the person sacrifice birds that talk a lot, so to speak, that chirp a lot, for the person that speaks lashon hara. Because when you speak lashon hara, you're talking a lot, you're over talking, you're speaking negatively, you're going on and on and on. You're not regulating your speech. So you say this is another example of homeopathy. Because why is it homeopathy? Because you're using the disease to heal you, meaning that you're using birds, which is the perfect example of lashon hara. They talk a lot, they chirp a lot, and you're using it as a korban to get rid of your tsar, which is caused by you talking a lot, by speaking negatively too much. So we see another example of homeopathy. All right, let's go to another example. So there's a very interesting episode in the Torah in Bamidbar in Book of Numbers. The story of the copper snake, the Nachash Nechoshet, I believe it's called in Hebrew. So what's the whole story of the copper snake? what happened was that there was a plague that hit Am Yisrael. I believe it was for the sin with Midian, where there's a lot of Jewish men that slept with the Midianite women because Bilam convinced them to go sleep with them in order to destroy Am Yisrael. So as a punishment, Hashem sent snakes, venomous snakes, to go and attack the people and punish them for what they did. So what was the medicine, so to speak? So Hashem tells Moshe, take a piece of copper, beat out a snake, put the snake on a pole. Whoever looks at the snake is going to get healed. No problem. So the question is, why snake? Why not get a steroid, get some Benadryl, get hospital? What does the snake have to do with this? Right, Ben? What does the snake have to do with this? Doesn't make any sense. So the answer is the energy of the snake, which is the cause of the disease, is what did the healing. So we see there's another example of homeopathy, because in order to cure the venom of the snake, you're using the energy of this copper snake to do the healing. People look at it and they get healed. There's also the Rashi also explains how when they looked at the snake, they looked at the Shemaim and they realized, there's really Hashem that's doing the healing, not us. But nonetheless, we see that the snake is the part of the process of healing the person, and it's really the energy of the actual disease that's doing it. It's just like homeopathy. It's a perfect example. The irony also is that it's very funny actually, because if you look at many ambulance symbols, what's their symbol?
Snake around staff.
Right. Where do they get that from? From this episode in the Torah. But the funny part is they don't realize this is actually homeopathy. And the potential establishment, some people in the medical doctors, they say homeopathy is garbage, but they don't realize that their biggest ambulance emergency symbol is homeopathic. It's the copper snake that's used homeopathically.
Wow. That's cool.
It's like hilarious. All right, let's go to one last example. So there's a story in the Book of Kings in Malachim Bet, where there's a story where Elisha Navi, for those who don't know, Elisha was the student of Eliyahu Navi, Elijah the prophet, big tzaddik. So what happened? So he goes to a town, and in this town, the people, I'll read you the verses. The people of the city said to Elisha, "Behold, the city is a good place to live in, as my Lord sees. But the water is bad, and the land causes people to die." So what did Elisha do? And he said, "Take to me a new jug, and put salt therein." And they took it to him. He went out to the source of the water, and threw salt there. And he said, "So as the Lord said, I have cured these waters. There will no longer be death and bereavement from there." And the water became cured to this day, according to the word of Elisha that he spoke. So what do we see here? The town had a whole water system. The whole water system was salty. People couldn't drink the water. It was causing a famine. It was causing a drought, and people were dying. So what was the solution Elisha said? Elisha told them, take a jug of water, put salty water in it, pour it into the water system, you're going to have clean Poland spring water, no problem. And that's what happened. So we see another example of homeopathy. We see the energy of the disease, or in this case, even to a certain extent, the disease itself, is curing the disease. The salty water is getting rid of the saltiness in the water system. Another example of homeopathy. And it's organized, and it probably was succussed, and it covers all these other principles as well, which is very, very amazing. So those are some of the sources in the Torah that talk about homeopathy. And there's a gazillion more I can tell you about. Now let's go into what the Talmud has to say about homeopathy. So it's very interesting. The Talmud gives in the Sechet tractate of Yoma. This is page 84, Amud Aleph. I believe it's a Mishnah, and it goes through different medications. Normally, the Gemara, practically speaking, we don't follow the medical advice of the Gemara because it's based on the medical advice of their day, the conventional medicine of their day. But nonetheless, there's a very interesting aspect here of homeopathy. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Ishmael says, whoever is bitten by a dog with rabies, what should the person? So let's say somebody gets bit by a dog, and the dog had rabies. So Chas v'shalom, somebody has rabies now. What do they do? What does the Gemara say to do? The Gemara says he may be fed with the left lobe of the dog's liver. So David, let me ask you this: if a rabbi came up to you and said, David, if you have rabies, go eat the ashes or the liver of a dog with rabies, what would you say?
He's absolutely crazy.
Ali, what do you think?
You killed the puppy.
Psycho,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
Psycho, right?
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck with that. Exactly. Doesn't make sense. So we see here how the rabbis in the Gemara, they had an idea, a homeopathic-like idea of healing. So obviously we don't do this today. We don't take an actual physical substance and use that to cure the disease, especially if it's a disease itself. But we see the concept of like cures like, that you can cure someone, use the disease of the person properly. You can use that energy, that disease, to heal the person.
And they do it with shots.
Exactly, vaccinations, immunizations. Ali's brought up a good point. Vaccines also do the same thing as homeopathy. So what's the difference? So vaccines they do use immunization in general is homeopathic in nature because they use the actual disease to heal people. Well, actually, it's more isopathic, but it's basically more or less the same thing. The only difference though is that in vaccines they put other stuff in it like mercury, aluminum, all these other chemicals and substances to keep the disease in there intact. Homeopathy, though, is more energetically based, so there's nothing except the energy of the substance itself. Meaning, physically speaking, there's nothing in the substance. Zero. But if you were to take a microscope and look at it energetically, you could see how the actual particles and actual makeup of the substance molecularly is actually changing and differs, even as it goes up and up and higher in potency. Which I could show you later. I could show you guys later. So that's one example. Another example. Says in the Gemara, the best of doctors go to Gehinnom. Best of doctors go to hell.
Oh,
Pretty
snap.
pretty big statement, right?
Yeah.
So why does the Talmud say this?
That's crazy.
So there's at least 17 different ways to explain this. So one explanation I saw was that if you look at a lot of doctors, most doctors, especially as they have experience in years of treating people, they say to themselves, oh, no one can treat anyone. I can do this. I got this on my own. I'm healing. I'm running the show. And because of that, they take God out of the picture. They don't recognize that disease and healing comes straight from God. At the end of the day, the doctor is just the pawn, just the messenger to bring the healing to the person. But really, it's all Hashem running the show. So that's one answer. So what does this have to do with homeopathy? So it's very interesting. There's a very big philosophy in homeopathy called Kentian philosophy. It's named after a big American homeopath named James Tyler Kent. He was a major American homeopath who also was a medical doctor in the late 1800s. And based off his religious beliefs, he was Christian. So based off his religious beliefs, he put forth the idea in homeopathy that how does healing work in homeopathy? You need to have God on the top. You have the client or the patient, and you have the homeopath. When all three of these entities are working together, meaning the homeopath realizes that whatever healing he could do with the remedies is coming from Hashem or from God, and when he's in support with the client, and the client recognizes has that connection to God spiritually, then that enables healing to take place for the client, and the homeopath to do his job, and for everything else to come into place. But when one of those factors is not there, there's no healing. According to Kent, you're not getting any healing done, no matter how well you are, how good you are. So we see here that this Kentian philosophy from homeopathy, which at first doesn't seem to have anything to do with Judaism, it's already been spoken about and hinted in the Gemara and in the commentaries as well. So let's go to one last part of the Gemara. There's a part of the Gemara that says an angel goes to each plant and commands it to. Oh, sorry. The Gemara another place talks about how there's lots of herbs and plants and minerals and substances in the world. And the Gemara says how an angel goes to each of these substances and tells it to grow. So the idea that we see from here is that every substance, every plant, every mineral has an energy to it. Even scientifically speaking, everything has energy. Without energy, none of us can survive. Nothing can exist. And homeopathy, one of the principles that I mentioned before in homeopathy is that we use the energetic makeup of a substance to do the healing. And as I said before, there's a whole process of how we do that. And so we see how like this concept of energy and all these and matter and substances and potential medicines exists, and the Gemara talks about it here. Now, here's the last part. Here's the last example. There's a midrash in the Mechilta. What does the Mechilta say? It quotes Rabban Gamliel, who says, "How wondrous are Hashem's deeds and the ways of how more wondrous are His deeds and ways than the deeds of mortals. He put the polluting agent in the polluted material to perform a miracle within a miracle." Meaning like this, that the way Hashem heals is totally different from the way humans generally heal. When Hashem heals, He can use the disease or the pollutant or the substance causing illness to heal the person with that same illness, like how we mentioned before. And whereas humans, they have to use the opposite of the disease to cure the disease. So this is the most flat. I think this is probably one of those flat examples I gave of. We see homeopathy because we see that Hashem uses the law of similars to heal people. Hashem uses similar homeopathic principles to heal people because He's using the energy of the disease to heal the disease in a person. So we see, like in the Midrash and the Gemara, all those examples. There's also, as I said before, there's many more examples. Now let's go into how we see homeopathy and holistic medicine and Kabbalah. All the Spartans watching this are probably really excited right now. So what do we see? So in Kabbalah, we don't see as much as the law of similars or the practical principles, the 4 principles you mentioned before of homeopathy. But the philosophy of homeopathy is you can find it a lot in books of Kabbalah and the Arizal, in all these sources. So it's very interesting. If you look in the Gemara and especially the writings of the Arizal, the Arizal talks about how we have 240 limbs in our body, and we have 365 sinews in our body, which is, by the way, is a complete scientific fact. You can Google this and confirm it. So the 248 limbs correspond to 248 positive mitzvot, like putting on tefillin, shaking lulav, doing chesed, things like that. The 365 sinews correspond to the negative mitzvot. Mitzvot meaning the mitzvot of not stealing, not committing adultery, all those things. So the Rizal talks about how when we do a mitzvah and we refrain from doing avirot, from doing sins, we're able to establish a direct spiritual connection with Hashem that manifests physically. Meaning that as a person keeps the mitzvot, all 613 mitzvot, as properly as he can, as best as possible, this is able to bring down energy from Shemayim onto that corresponding part of the body, which spiritually keeps the person clean spiritually, and physically it manifests in health, in good health. But when a person does a sin or he makes a mistake, or he's not following one of the mitzvot, then that will manifest into a person not being healthy. And we see this is holistic medicine, because holistic medicine looks at the person as a whole, and everything, the mind, the body, the soul, all work together. The person's energy all works together. And we see how when one aspect, for example, the mentals or emotionals aspect of a person is off, it's not right, like a person's feeling down, feeling depressed, anxiety, angry, whatever it is, that will have a direct connection to a person's body. Meaning that can result in a specific illness in a person's body. And to be honest, I've seen this so much in my practice. I've seen this so much with dealing with clients. I'll tell you a story actually. I had it's very interesting. I have a client, from Orthodox client from New Jersey, somewhere in New Jersey. I don't want to say the place. And for 7 years, he had eczema. He had eczema all over his hands. So it's very interesting. You look at mind-body research studies. They show how eczema, it corresponds to a conflict around separation, especially when it comes to people's transitions in life, or changing from one stage in life or one attitude in life to another. So this person had eczema when he was 17, 18. So before he went to see me, I asked him a question. I asked him, listen, you told me you had eczema when you were 17. Did you ever go through like a conflict of transitioning or some like intense life event that changed the way you thought and did things in life. So I asked him this question. What did he answer me? What the hell are you talking about? What does that have to do with eczema? I don't understand. I don't know. Probably not. 2 minutes later, as we're talking, he's like, oh, I actually do remember something. And he told me about when he was 17. Before 17, he wasn't religious. He was secular. And when he was 17, the day he decided he was going to quit his whole secular life and do teshuvah and become religious, he had eczema. The day that he made that decision in his head, had eczema. So through that and through other information in his case, I was able to give him a remedy that was not only able to tackle to get rid of his eczema, which till this day he doesn't have, Baruch Hashem, for it's been a year, but also also mentally, emotionally, he feels stronger and better, even spiritually too. He feels more connected to Hashem, and Baruch Hashem, a lot of good stuff there. So we see the point of me bringing out this story is that is that our actions, the way we think, the way we do things, the way we look at things in life, it all has an effect on our physical body, for good and for the opposite. And it's something not a lot of people think about. A lot of people take it for granted, but it's really the reality. We see this in Jewish sources and Torah sources, especially in Kabbalah. Another idea brought out in Kabbalah, and especially with holistic medicine in general, is this. There's a Zohar piece that talks about how if a person doesn't fix one aspect of his life in this world, in a certain stage of his life, then Hashem will send him those challenges in another way in the next part of his life. So I'll give you an example. Let's say somebody, when he was 5 years old or 10 years old, he suffered like a childhood trauma, like his parents got divorced, or he was abused, chas v'shalom, or anything like that. So if a person goes through those challenges but is not able to approach and tackle those challenges properly and to overcome it, then that challenge will manifest in a different but similar way in, for example, his 20s. And it's not resolved then, it'll manifest in his 30s and 40s, etc., until he's able to overcome that meter or that challenge and fix it. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
So we see homeopathy is also a very similar principle as well. In homeopathy, there's this idea. Hi, come on in. There's an idea that when a person. Sorry, let me start over. When we look at people's cases in homeopathy and when we treat them, the reason why we ask so many questions about their lifestyle, their mentals, emotionals, all these things, the whole A to Z, is because we try to look for a pattern in this person's case, in this person's story. And through this pattern, we're able to figure out really what's asking to be healed and to find the right remedy for this person for all their individual needs on all levels. And this idea is exactly straight out of the Zohar I just mentioned. Because in a lot of these cases, people that went through traumas or issues in certain stages of their life, and they don't they don't try to work on it heads on or challenge it heads on or to fix it, it comes back in a very similar way, in a very similar different way. I have another client that from the local area who he underwent challenges with his parents, arguing, screaming, very bad shalom bayit family issues. And that was when he was a young kid, like in middle school age. In his 20s, he encountered certain issues like that when he was dating. He told me the story of how he dated a girl for a year, and then eventually the girl left him and went out with and decided to go out with him with his friend, with his best friend. And he was having like this same kind of pattern in his life story, which I'm not going to go into detail of. So we see that, and Baruch Hashem homeopathy is able to help him. So we see that in people's overall general health, there's a pattern to it, and this pattern results from it not being resolved in the first early stages of their life. And this also could be an issue of reincarnation too, by the way. It's not just in this world. There could be things in your past life, in your past reincarnation Google, that if it's not worked on or fixed, it'll come back in this life. You have to deal with it too. So it's a very similar idea. So you see that this concept in the Zohar of life patterns, it's also in homeopathy as well. We use it practically in homeopathy too. So that's that. There's another name I wanted to show you, but it's very similar to what we spoke about before, so I'm not going to talk about that. The Rambam, if you look at Maimonides, in all of his medical works, all his health works, in Yisodei Torah and his other books as well, he always talks about how you have to treat the person holistically, meaning you have to look at not just their physical issues, you have to look at their state of mind, their disposition, their food, their diet, their lifestyle, all these obstacles around them that aren't helping him reach his optimum health. So we see even from the Rambam, who was one of the top doctors, physicians of his time, that it's not enough just to look at one aspect of superficial aspect of the person. You have to look at the person at all different various levels, at his whole story, at all of his issues as a whole, and you have to address that in order to really bring out complete healing. I'll just share two more things and then we'll take questions. So we mentioned before how homeopathy is an energetic medicine. We mentioned before the Gemara, the Talmud, talks about how there's a godly energy put in everything that keeps it functioning and going and maintain and doing and just living. So if you look in the writings of Rabbi Nachman or Breslov, Rabbi Nachman, he talks about who by the way was the one that started Breslov Chassidus in the 1700s. He talks about how every single object in the world, and this is very scary. This is homeopathy. He talks about how if you can take any plant, any herb, any mineral, any substance in the world, even man-made, anything, and if you use it in a certain way, you can use this to heal people. This is exactly what we do in homeopathy and in holistic medicine in general. We take all these random substances, even sometimes we use even diseases like breast tissue cancer, plastic, rice, aloe, the herbs, minerals, snakes, everything. We take all these substances and we use the energy of it to heal people. It's exactly what Rabbi Nachman is talking about right now. Because everything that Hashem puts everything in this world for us to use. It's not like Hashem made this plant or this herb or this animal for no reason. Everything has a purpose, and depending on how we use that object or that thing or that organism, we can use it for good or use it for negative. You can use a snake and use it, for example, homeopathically, and you can heal people and men or women or whoever for various issues. Or chas v'shalom, you can be used to kill people. Or arsenic. You use arsenic to cure restlessness and homeopathically burning, stomach burning, anxiety. Or you can use, or chas v'shalom, you can use for someone to commit suicide, or you can kill people. Or you use neutrally to whiten the wall. So it can go either way. So we see that's another idea. And the last one I want to share with you tonight is from the Baal Tanya, from the Alter Rebbe, the first Lubavitch Rebbe. We're in Chabad, so I figured let's bring out some Chabad Chassidus.
A little bit of the
The
Rebbe.
Rebbe. So what does he say? So he talks about a very similar idea also of how, but he takes it a step further. He says everything in this world is run by godly energy. Without Hashem's energy in something, it can't exist. This bag of potato chip will not exist if there's no godly energy keeping it going and functioning and flowing. Neither would this water. Neither would any of us here. Neither would this whole background behind me exist, or this computer in front of me. Without this godly energy, it can't exist. So it's another example of how we see how there's energy in the world, it's nothing to do with Avodah Zarah or Kedusha. There's energy, and it's a power, and it keeps us functioning and vital. And depending on how we use this energy, we can use it for positive or negative. And homeopathy, just to wrap it up, is an example of how we use energy-based substances, medicines, and when it's used properly, it can do great things for people. It can heal people, and it can provide the right holistic treatment that people need. So, I think I might have overspoken this one, but so this is holistic Judaism. Showed you how holistic medicine, health is, and how it's used and the Torah's approach to it, and how the whole goal is not to band-aid individual symptoms or issues, but how the Torah, according to the Torah, we need to look at people as a whole, at all their problems, at their story, at their energy, and what's going on. And we have to look at the person, not the disease. And by addressing that, that's how you really get the true, permanent, effective, safe healing. And B'ezrat Hashem, I hope everyone hope everyone enjoyed this schmooze, this talk. And if anyone has questions, feel free to go ahead.
Stay healthy. Let's end the video
That's it?
now.